Welcome to the Art and Soul Podcast. I'm Alicia, your fellow dreamer and guide on this path of healing. This podcast is our sanctuary, a place where artists, creatives, and sensitive souls like you and me can come to recharge and find inspiration. You'll find tips and tools to help you on your awakening journey. Let's dive deep and discover the magic inside of us. Welcome back. I am so grateful for those of you that are here again for this second podcast. It's really fun to be here with you again and to share with you. I also just want to thank everyone so much for the massive amount of support that you gave me after the first episode came out. It seriously was so heartwarming and touching to just hear everyone's reactions and responses and excitement for what I'm sharing and what I'm doing. It seriously warms my heart that everyone else is just as excited as I am to be doing this. So I'm just so grateful, and I want to thank you so much for sharing the podcast and telling your friends and family about it, and just for leaving me such beautiful, kind, sweet messages about everything. It really made my day. So today we are talking about the feeling of being stuck and all of the emotions that come along with that. The feeling in life when you feel like you are just not able to move forward for whatever reason that is. Sometimes it's more of an emotional or mental feeling. Sometimes you don't know why it's there. And I just figured this was a really important place to start as we're talking about not only being a sensitive person who is very empathetic, but also being a person who is creative. Because as a creative person, you have all of these dreams, all of these desires, all of these things that you want to manifest into the world. But if you have any sense of feeling stuck or feeling trapped or feeling held back in any way, it can be so frustrating and so infuriating when you have all of this creative energy building inside of you and you can't seem to get it out. Now, of course, I'm not just talking about being stuck within creative projects, although I think that is a huge part of the story for those of us that are artistic. But a lot of us are also mirroring our art and our creativity with our life. And that happens so often. I mean, it doesn't just happen in art and creativity. It happens in business. It happens in relationships, many areas of our lives where we mirror on the outside, just energetically. We mirror what we feel on the inside or what's going on with us inside. So a lot of times, if we are having trouble expressing ourselves creatively or getting the story out there that we want to tell or the music or whatever it is, usually it is a symptom that there is something stuck inside of us. There's some kind of stuck energy going on inside of us. So that is the part that I really want to get down to, is not even necessarily like the creative blocks or the writer's block or whatever that is, but what's underneath all of that, because moving that energy is going to free up all of the creative energy to flow out of you because you already have that creative energy. I mean, we all do, but especially artists, we have this divine inspiration flowing into us on a daily basis. So it's not a lack of inspiration that you can't get your work out there most of the time. Usually, it's something else going on. The other reason I really want to talk about this is because it's really personal for me. I feel like I was stuck for so many years. And it doesn't mean that in that time I wasn't doing things that were really valid and important. And I also was still creating. It just didn't feel like exactly what I was supposed to do, what I wanted to put out into the world. It felt very confusing and conflicting. And I felt very lost throughout the whole process. So for those of you who are in that right now, I just want you to know that you are not alone. There are so many people in that. And the things I'm going to talk about today are the things that really helped me to get out of that place. So I just feel that it's so important, especially when you're in that place, to feel like you're not alone and to know that there are tools out there and there are ways to move through that feeling of stuckness. When I was going through this, I would get an idea or have an idea for a project, and I would start to create it, but I would always kind of come up against this wall. And it felt like a wall, like a block. Like it felt like I was just banging my head against a wall. And no matter what I did, it was always there. And I would try to skirt around it and go a different way or change the direction of what I was working on, change the partnership of the people I was working with, even change. I went so far as completely scrapping projects and moving to new projects, which I think is part of the creative process, but specifically never finishing any projects was the real part of it that was troublesome to me, and it never felt satisfying. It never felt like, oh wow, I just feel so good about that thing that I just put out into the world. It just never felt like it. It never felt like I was getting anywhere. So for me personally, part of the reason that I was experiencing that feeling of stuckness, that blockage, that energy loop was because I was really uncertain about what I wanted to share, first of all, what my message really was. But deeper than that, I was uncertain about myself. And I was kind of waiting for someone to come save me and tell me everything was going to be okay, and this is the way to do it, and here's how you're going to go about it. And I was actually waiting on divine intervention for God to be like, okay, here's the path. Here are all the tools you need. Here, I'm removing all of these obstacles and go. And I waited and I waited and I waited on that for so long. And I had countless people, well-intentioned people telling me, yeah, it's just God's timing. You just gotta wait. Just wait a little bit longer. God's gonna do it. And truly, it didn't happen. And I know that's hard for some of you to hear because we want someone to come in and save us. It is natural for us to want the prince on the white horse to come in and save us in many areas of our lives. People are always looking for a savior because it means you don't have to do the work. It means you don't have to do anything, and ultimately it means you don't have to change yourself. But the reality is, when you're stuck, the biggest thing that you have to do is change yourself. And if you're in a state of being stuck, a lot of times it's because you're unwilling to change yourself, or you just don't know that you need to, and you're just waiting. You're just waiting on someone else to do it or to come save you. So that's where I was. I was in that place, just waiting. I'm talking for years. For years, I was waiting on God to give me the divine clarity and inspiration and open up everything in my life that needed to be opened up. And finally, I realized nobody's coming. Nobody is coming to save me. There's a concept of co-creating your life with the Creator, that divine energy, that divine being. For a long time, I thought that was just like praying and waiting for a response. And I could not have been more off than that. Co-creating with the Creator is all about actually creating your life. It's all about looking at your life, looking at yourself deep down, truthfully, and understanding the things that need to change and the things that you want to change. Looking at yourself from a different perspective and seeing all of the ways that you're not meeting your own standards. There is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with looking at yourself and going, I have adopted this habit or this survival pattern or this part of my personality that is not serving me. And so I need to get rid of it. I need to do something about it. With that, I will say it's really important to love yourself where you're at through that process. That's a whole other conversation that we can have at some point. But some of us need to be a little honest with ourselves. And that's exactly where I was. I was in a place where I was just like, come and save me. Open up the doors. Give me the keys. unlock everything for me. I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm waiting. And I wasn't doing anything. And this is why all of this is so important to me, and I'm so passionate about it, because when you are stuck, there are some times where it is a timing thing. There really are. But it's important to have the discernment to know when it's about timing and when it's about you taking action. And they're two very different feelings. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So first, let's talk about what it actually means to feel stuck. Because sometimes when we are quote unquote stuck, we don't even almost know that we are at first. Sometimes it feels like we are just lazy, that we're not ambitious, that we are a procrastinator. Sometimes we can start to have those stories running through our mind about ourselves and why we're not doing all the things we want to do. Sometimes we have other people telling us, you're lazy, you're unambitious, you're procrastinator. And so we've got those voices in our mind too. I want to talk about this from an energetic standpoint for a second because I think it's really important. We are electric beings. We have an electromagnetic field that emanates from our body at a particular frequency. Our heart has its own electromagnetic field as well. Our brain has one as well. So our thoughts are all frequency that are going out into the world, and so are our emotions, our feelings. When you're feeling stuck, it is not just that you have picked up a bad habit or a bad pattern. It is that your energy is actually stagnant. Like the energy in your field is not moving properly. It's supposed to be continuously circulating. If you think about light or about sound, those tiny particles, like the tiny particles of light, those photons, those are always moving. They're not stagnant. Our body and our energy is made up of those photons, those light particles. So if there is a place of stagnancy, if there is a place where those particles are stuck and they're not moving, that is going to affect your entire emotional, physical, and mental well-being. So when you're feeling stuck, it's really not just a matter of willpower, of like forcing yourself out of it, of getting out of your bad habits or what have you. It's really, truly a matter of starting to move that energy. I just want to encourage you with that because for so long, I just thought there was something really wrong with me that I couldn't move. And there was, but it was more with my energy than anything else. It was my energy that was stuck because of different things in my past and different choices I had made and was also continuously making. But a big part of it was that my energy was just stuck. So I want you to remember that as we're talking about this, because some of you might be experiencing an energetic stuckness that's a little bit more intense and is really holding you in a place where you might need some one-on-one work. I just want to preface that because it truly was not until I started doing energy work on myself that I started to get out of the funk I had been in for years and years. So some of these things you can do on your own, and some of them you just need a guide and someone to help you who understands energy and understands discernment and understands this kind of work to help you process that energy through. So if you've tried all the things, that we're going to talk about, if you're like, yeah, I've tried meditating and I've tried this and I've tried that and none of it works, there's a good chance that if you really do want to change, you might have to get someone else who understands energy to work with you. Okay. I just needed to say that first. The last thing I want to say about the concept of energy and our field being stuck and that causing a stuckness is this kind of silly statement that everything affects everything. Okay, it sounds like really just kind of like, okay, well, sure. But it's really true. Our energy affects our emotions, which affects our thoughts, which affects our physical well-being, and vice versa. So our physical well-being affects our emotions, affects our thoughts, affects our energy. So if one is out of balance, then it affects all the other ones, is what I'm trying to say. So some of you might lean more toward like, yeah, I feel pretty balanced in my emotions, but my thoughts are just out of control. And some of you might feel like, I feel pretty good, like energetically, emotionally, but my physical body feels like, I've always got pain or I'm always getting injured, something like that. So it's important to keep in mind that what we're going for here is truly just a balance of everything, your entire well-being, your entire body, mind, body, spirit, all of it. That is going to be the place that you're an optimal human being and you can move forward with ease, okay? All right, so if you're going to get unstuck, first you got to know what it means to feel stuck and how you can recognize if you are in that state. Some of you might be like, yeah, this is obvious. I know I'm stuck. Some of you might feel, just like I said, like you're lazy or you're unambitious or whatever, and it's masking the fact that you actually have stuck energy. So here are some indicators that you are actually in a state of stuckness. If you're feeling unmotivated pretty consistently, if you're feeling depressed or anxious consistently, if you're procrastinating, but procrastinating like all the time on everything, and you're procrastinating things that should be really simple or really easy. This one is a big one. If you are feeling really confused or unclear about the future, about decisions, about creative projects, that is a big indicator that you are waiting on someone to tell you what to do, that you're waiting on someone to come save you. So that's a stuck energy. If you're putting off social interactions, now there's a difference between being like an introvert and needing to have alone time. But if you have like social anxiety, or you're putting off social interactions or engagements, or canceling on people a lot, or wanting to be in a state of isolation most of the time, and that's also not feeding you, you're probably in a state of stuckness. Another big one is having extreme emotional or physical fatigue. Most of the time it comes out as emotional, but sometimes it's hard to tell the difference, especially when you're a really sensitive, empathetic being. It's hard to tell the difference between being emotionally and physically fatigued, and sometimes they go hand in hand. So if that's happening on a regular basis, especially if you've gone to doctors or you've checked your hormones or you've kind of checked all of the physical stuff, there's a good chance that your nervous system is very overwhelmed with this energetic stuckness. The other thing is if you're feeling boredom in your life in any capacity. So if you're feeling like bored at work or at home, or you feel like you need to move to a new city, or you need to go somewhere else to make things happen for yourself, or you might be one of those people who is moving all the time, and it's like you're just seeking that next open space to make things happen. But then after a few months or a year or so, you're kind of in that same place of feeling stuck or feeling bored. And then the last one would be a feeling of disconnection or feeling uninterested in things that you are typically passionate about, or goals that you have or used to have. So a lot of times when we're in this stuck energy, we become super overwhelmed, and those dreams, those passions, those goals feel just so overwhelming to us that that's just another indication of you being in a stuck place. The other thing I really want to talk about is rest for a second, because I have seen a lot of people who are in a stuck energetic loop that are calling it rest. And they're actually in a freeze response where their nervous system is too overwhelmed. And so when they're quote unquote resting, they're actually sitting in fear. They're sitting in confusion about what they're going to do next. They feel guilty about what they're going to do next. And they're calling it rest, but it's not actually revitalizing them or rejuvenating them in any way. So that's something to also look at, and just to recognize if you have been indicating that you're resting, but really it's not actually restful. Okay, so now let's move on to some reasons why you might actually be stuck, because there's some main reasons here that are really important to just know. And maybe this is a good time to like pull out a journal or just feel for yourself what your reasons might be or what comes to mind first for you. A lot of times what comes to mind first, or what kind of you feel lights up when I talk about it, that is the thing for you. Sometimes we overthink it way too much. Like, it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be a combination of all the things. And it might be, but most of the time, our intuition really knows the truth already. So if I'm saying something here and you feel something in your body or in your soul about it, if it lights up in some way, just go with it. Don't overthink it. Okay. So one of the reasons you might be stuck is because of timing. I have to say this because it is true that sometimes it's about meeting the right people. It's about ourself being in the right frequency, other people being at the right frequency to accept the things we need to share or who we're going to be at that time or whatever. Sometimes, and I know I talked about this in my first podcast where I was sharing about myself and my own journey. Sometimes the world is not ready yet for the thing that you want to share or create or do. Sometimes truly it is timing. I know some of you have been on a self-help, spiritual, read every book you can, do all the things, all the affirmations and all of the manifestations journey, and it hasn't seemed to help. So the two options, if you've done everything already, are A, you need a professional to get in there and help you unblock some of your energy, or B, it is timing. Okay? So the second reason you might be stuck is because you have growth to do. We hate hearing that. At least I did. I hated hearing that when I thought I was ready. I thought I wanted to do all the things, and I thought I was ready to be everything that I believed that I was going to be. And like I said, this applies to your creative projects too. So if your creative projects are not getting the traction you want them to get, even if you put it out there and you're like, I feel really good about it, but it's not getting anywhere, no one's seeing it, no one cares. A lot of times that, again, is reflecting back to you, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about being seen, and the work and the growth that you need to do on yourself. So some of the major areas that you could have growth to do are believing in yourself. Sometimes we really underestimate the value of a deep belief in ourselves, and we have to cultivate that. Sharpening your intuition is another place of growth. And again, that's about kind of removing everybody else's junk and energy from your field and everybody else's opinions and thoughts about who you should be, why you should be doing the things that you're doing, all of that. And really digging in deep to what you feel led to do, what you believe is your purpose or what your next step is meant to be at this moment. Another place you might have growth to do is in your mental landscape. So this kind of goes along with believing in yourself, but this is more about your general thought patterns and your thought processes. Some of these thought patterns you have had since you were born. Some of them you've inherited from your parents. And truly, if you want to change anything in your life, you have to change your mind. You have to. It is the first step to anything you want to be or become, any goals or dreams or ambitions you have. Your mindset about it is so important. And I'm not just talking about affirmations. I'm talking about your subconscious mind that runs 95% of your life. Your conscious mind is only active, I'm even being generous by saying 5% of the time. 95% of what we do, I think there are some studies that even say like 98 or 99% of what we do is on autopilot. Our subconscious is like a computer. It stores all of this information that is programmed a certain way based on our environment, based on the way we were raised, based on genetic and ancestral patterns. And that is what runs our life. So saying a few affirmations or getting in a positive mindset or just thinking positively is not going to change your life because you're not changing the program that your life is running on 95% of the time. So sharpening your mental landscape is absolutely vital for any type of growth. And that might be why you're in a state of stuckness, because you have a need to look at your mind. The other side of the coin to our mental landscape is our emotional landscape. I mean, you're not a human if you don't have emotional baggage. The reason that we have emotional baggage, especially if you're a really sensitive, artistic, creative, empathetic being like you and me, we have this emotional baggage because we absorb it from other people, we absorb other people's emotions, but also most of us were not taught how to regulate our nervous systems and how to release our emotions. There's kind of like a 4-step process to releasing your emotions that we can talk about at another point as well. But most of us don't go through that process, and it's because of the way that our society functions and the way that most of us are in a state of stress all the time. When you're in a state of stress, you cannot effectively release the emotions that are going through your body. So this is really one of the big ones for feeling blocked. Usually it has something to do with needing to release some emotional energy in your field. Even if you didn't have a super traumatic childhood, for those of you that did, you might have even a little more work to do. But for those of you who had just a regular old childhood, nothing really crazy happened, we're still all humans and we still all feel so deeply as artists that there's just energy that gets trapped. And there are some natural ways that our body usually releases these emotions that we've kind of taken out of our everyday lives. For instance, when you walk barefoot on the earth, there's an energetic exchange that happens with the negative ions of the planet and your energy. And it allows you to become grounded. It allows you to feel safe. It allows your nervous system to calm down. And then you're able to release that emotional energy, that thought energy, all of that. And it's easy, it's natural, it's normal. But the problem is we rarely spend time with our feet on the earth. So we've kind of taken away that natural way of releasing energy and moving energy through our body. And there are other ways too, that's just one example, that we don't do as often because we're not in nature every single day, for the most part, in our modern society. Okay, and the last part of you might have growth to do is that you might be the one in your family who is meant to overcome obstacles, generational energy, generational trauma, generational obstacles, and break out of that energetic loop that your family has been in for years and years and years. So sometimes that comes up in your life at very specific times because you are the one to release it. And it's like God or the universe gives you the opportunity to release it. And if you don't take that opportunity, then it just carries on in your energy for a long time. And you might get another opportunity later. And then if you don't release it or you don't deal with it, it carries on. And then you pass it down to your children and so on and so on. So another reason you might feel stuck is you have a fear. You have a fear of failure. You have a fear of embarrassment. You have maybe tried something and failed before, and now your subconscious is afraid that you're going to fail again, and it's uncomfortable to fail again. And then the last kind of big reason you might be stuck, which is what I mentioned before in my story about myself, is that sometimes you don't know who you are. There's a lack of identity, and you don't know why you're here. There's a lack of purpose. So that includes, you might feel really strongly about your purpose, but that purpose or that identity might be put on you from other people. You might be living based on someone else's definition of you or your life. Or you might be waiting for your savior, looking outside of yourself for someone to tell you what to do, how to do it, or why you're here. Okay? So to break free of this feeling, of this energy blockage, you have to look within yourself. You have to remove limiting beliefs, remove beliefs and systems and patterns and habits and all of that you've been conditioned into, and find out what the root cause is. Is it a thought? Is it an emotion? Is it a trauma or an experience that you're still recycling through your energy? Is it a system that you've built or someone else has built around you? Is it a structure? All of this is really important. So becoming aware of that is the first step. This is where I talk about journaling again. I know some of you might be writers and journaling comes really easily to you. Some of you might not enjoy that, so you could do it in a different way. You know, sometimes like I'll draw or I'll paint or whatever, just to get kind of my right brain activated a little bit so that my subconscious can start to kind of dump this information. So if you do something that has that right brain activity, it opens up a space for the subconscious to start to let go of things and to reveal things to you. When it does that, just make sure you have somewhere to write down whatever's coming to you. But take some really intentional time and look at all the things I just said and see what your story is. What's the story you've been telling yourself, and what are some of those belief systems or parts of you, thoughts, emotions, experiences that are affecting your ability to move forward? And again, just as a reminder, your brain does not want to get out of the comfort zone that it's in, because our brains seek to make us safe and comfortable. Anything that is out of our comfort zone is something that is just unknown to our brain. And so when we want to go in that direction or try to create new habits, our brain freaks out because it's like, wait, we don't know this. We don't do this usually. So you have to know that in order to break out of this feeling of stuckness, you're going to have to do something differently, and your brain is going to have to accept that there's going to be a little bit of unknown here. And this is where those practices come in. Meditation, moving your body, journaling, getting energy work, getting energy help, affirmations, all of that stuff that we sometimes do just flippantly because somebody told us it was a good idea, or we read it in some book that we should say affirmations in the mirror to ourselves every morning. The reason behind all of that is this attempt to make your brain feel comfortable outside of its comfort zone so that it doesn't do things to block you from moving forward. So sometimes you might need an outside perspective. Sometimes you might need a therapist, a coach, a healer, a guide, someone else to look at your process and help you see the blind spots and notice what problems you've been ruminating on and making bigger by ruminating on them. And sometimes you have been talking yourself into the same stories over and over. So if you do talk to someone on a regular basis, like a therapist or a coach, or even a friend or your mom or whoever, and you're used to telling the same story the same way about yourself, that's something to notice as well. That's something to kind of start to shake up a little bit. We have to get out of those same cycles and stories that we're creating for ourselves. One of the best ways to move energy through your body is through movement and exercise. It sounds like it should just be a physical thing, right? When we're moving our body, like we're just getting exercise, it's just healthy for us because physically it's healthy for us. But actually, when we move our bodies, it helps that energy in our energy field move as well. So it doesn't have to be a workout. You could dance, you can shake, you can jump around, you can jump on one of those little tiny trampolines, you can ride a bike, you can go for a walk, whatever. But just like move your body, get out of that normal sedentary state. And this is really going to help some of that energy move through and help you get some of that self-awareness, some of those answers as you're journaling, thinking about this, all of that. So just as a list, again, some of the things that are going to help you are journaling, becoming self-aware, meditation, physical movement, and potentially, if those things are not serving you to give you the results that you want, finding someone who understands spirituality and is a coach, a therapist, or some kind of spiritual guide or energy worker to help you through this energy. Another important thing to do is also to know where you want to go. Like I said before, sometimes when we feel stuck, we have trouble seeing the future. We have trouble seeing what our goals are, or we're not passionate about those things anymore, or we just have trouble making decisions in general. So if it's not clear to you where you're going or what you're trying to get to, this is where the mindset component is going to be so important, and you absolutely have to meditate. It is truly, in my opinion, the only way forward when you are in that place. You have to go within yourself. You have to look inside, and that is what meditation is. So it's really important as you're working with this too, to find something you can do that actually resonates with you. So for some of you, that is meditation or breath work or dancing or being active. For some of you, you would rather go see an energy healer and have someone help you through that. But somehow you have to get yourself to just take the next step that's in front of you. If you're waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to come save you, waiting for someone to heal you, waiting for someone to tell you what the next step is or what direction to move in, you'll always be waiting. We are meant to create our life. We're meant to have a say in the way things go. So part of that is knowing where we want to go. And then the other part of that is finding the tools that really resonate with us to help us take that next step and move in the right direction. It's also so important to remember that healing is almost never a quick fix. It really takes time. So if you are stuck in old patterns, old energy, you feel like you're coming up against blocks, give yourself some patience and some grace. Be patient to the fact that it takes your body and your energy some time to readjust, even when you're starting some of these practices like meditation or breath work or whatever it is, or you're working with someone. It takes time. We're so obsessed with getting a quick fix, but that's just not the way that we are designed, that our bodies are designed. We're designed the same way as nature, and if you look at the speed that nature moves and grows and changes, it's slow. It's slow. It's slow and steady and patient. So be patient with yourself throughout this process and look for the little wins as you go. Look for the little movements that you're making forward. Those are the things we have to focus on, because when we broaden our scope, it becomes too overwhelming and it feels unattainable to make big moves, especially when you've been completely stuck and completely stagnant. So when you're getting out of that and you're starting to inch forward and move your energy a little bit and shift your energy a little bit, it's got to be gradual, and you've got to reward yourself with those little wins as you go. Create your own scale for success. A lot of times, healing success and energy shift is internal before it manifests in the external world, before people see it. When I was going through all of this feeling of being stuck, the peak of that was about 6 years ago, and it's taken until now for it to manifest outside of my body. Now, I'm not saying it's going to take 6 years for you to get unstuck and then also manifest the things that you want to manifest into the world or create. In fact, it probably won't, because you have someone guiding you. You have someone else that has been through it to help you, but it will take time for you to heal internally and for that to be seen on the outside. So just keep that in mind as you're going. I know sometimes it's so frustrating because you just want to get through it or get to the other side of it, but it just takes time. So the last thing I'm going to remind you of is that mind-body connection. Remember, everything affects everything. So if you are stagnant in one area, it's affecting your energy no matter what. If you're stagnant in the way that you treat your body physically, if that's not going so great for you, that's the place to start focusing on. It's really going to affect that creativity. It's going to affect those relationships. If you're not nourishing your body, if you're not moving your body, if you're not spending time in nature, and vice versa. If your emotional state is all over the place, getting in meditation, figuring out where those emotions are coming from, what kind of baggage are you carrying around? That's going to affect your physical body. That's going to affect any kind of manifestation of the work that you want to put out into the world. So move, shake, wiggle, dance, do something physical. If that doesn't work, sing, scream. All of this kind of frees up your energy. Those are some really simple ways to get the energy flowing in your body. Meditating and journaling are also going to free up that energy for you. And if those things don't work, or you're not sure how to meditate and that kind of thing, get with someone who is a spiritual coach, a guide, or a energy healer to help you move that energy. I'm thinking that I want to do a whole podcast on meditating and how to do it, because I think so many people don't really understand what it is or know how to do it, or just some techniques for actually releasing and getting in touch with your inner self. So I'm thinking that's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. If you're listening to this podcast and you're kind of like, okay, I could meditate, but I don't, like, what do I do? I understand. There's too much information to put it all in this episode. So all of that's going to be coming out. There are going to be tools coming out for you. So there's going to be meditations. And I want to re-emphasize, I'm doing group energy healing sessions that are recorded that come out on my Substack every week. If you're a paid subscriber on my Substack, it's only like $7.77 a month. So you will have access to a full 45-minute energy session every week. Okay, so that's going to help start moving that energy through. And there are going to be so many things coming in there that are going to really, really help you do all of these things I've just told you about. Breath work, movement, meditation, energy healing. I mean, truly the list goes on and on. So please get in there if you are feeling stuck and you're in this kind of mind-body space that is not allowing you to move forward, and you don't have the finances to hire a one-on-one energy healer or coach or therapist. Going the self-healing route is totally doable. And it's so much better when you have those resources all there in the same place for you, and you have a community of other people that are also going through the same thing. So please get in there if you're feeling really stuck and you don't feel capable of doing this on your own. I promise you, healing is possible. Getting unstuck is possible. I've seen myself do it. I've seen my clients do it. It really, really is possible with just a few small shifts day by day in your life. So don't give up on yourself. Believe in yourself. You've got this. I'm here to help you. We have a community of people that are growing, that are here to help you go through this. So please don't do it alone. Please reach out if you need anything at all, any guidance, any tips, any one-on-one help. I'm always here for you. I love you all so much. Thank you for being the beautiful beings that you are. Thank you for seeking your healing so that you can do everything you're meant to do in this life. I'm so excited for you. It's just the beginning. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.